Welcome to my early access review of Memoriapolis. This is really a fresh take on city building, Anno Meets Civilization. I know my reviews are always a bit later than others because I like to complete the game before reviewing it. I also like to give a couple of weeks after the initial release to the game developers to see, how many patches are we getting? Do we have a clear roadmap? All those type of things. So yes, this is early access, but actually this is early access with a very clear roadmap. So let's actually talk about this right away. When the game launched, there was a few bugs, but not that much. Right away, they got a couple of patches and hotfixes, so that was good to see. And very recently, we even got a new post with the full roadmap. The devs have confirmed that they're thinking, to release within 1 year. It will be quite a short early access period. We're gonna have to see if they deliver on this, but at least over here we can see a roadmap that is indeed, September, October, November. So there's quite a lot that's coming. And then early 2025, and by that November update, they're already planning the third age. In the early access part of the game right now, we only have 2 ages, the Antiquity and the Medieval Age. Then in November, they're saying the third age, the Renaissance. And then in early 2025, the fourth and final age of version 1, Age of Enlightenment. I can imagine they come up with also other ages later on with DLC, for example, but at least we know that for version 1, for the full release, these are the 4 ages. And so yeah, it seems that if the 4th age is already coming early 2025, they could definitely deliver inside that period of 1 year. So it's good to see there has been some update and they have a clear roadmap. Going back into the game, as I said, for me this is a bit Anno 1800 meets Civilization. You have a lot of city building aspect. You're going to want to place, your brickworks, your carpenter, your small farms, so multiple production chains, not just individual buildings, but also chains. For example, you're gonna cut your wood and then transform it into something better, into the carpenter, right? So you have multiple of those production chains. You're gonna want to place them where the resources are. So for example, the cutting camp needs to be where there is wood. You can see here there's 8,000 wood, it's great. Here there's only 291 wood. That's not good at all. It's gonna be empty very soon. And same for your mines and all of this. So you have those production chains very similar to normal city builders like Anno 1800, but you also have the civilization aspect of you're gonna move through the ages. As I said, you're gonna start in the Antiquity, and you can see that with some of my buildings. For example, over here, right, this is clearly a building from that age. But then you're gonna move. We're gonna move into the Medieval Age. So you can see this part of my city over here. This is Oxford University. So this is more kind of the Medieval Age, and then again we're gonna move further and further. And then on top of this, for me, it's really a fresh take on City Builder because there's a lot more of organic. The roads are completely organic, even the houses, the district, they're not actually called houses, they're called districts, right, which are collection of houses, neighborhoods, if you wish. They're gonna build automatically, in a very organic way based on where the roads are, based on where all of your other buildings are, basically appearing where you have most attractiveness. People want to be close to your city center, for example, close to your nice service building or cultural building. You can see over here all those cultural buildings, over here all those services, but they don't want to be close, to the mine or things like this. So that's really a fresh tech that is really interesting. In terms of the graphics, you can zoom out pretty far, as you can see here. You can zoom in pretty close, but not as close as I would want. I would love one more step, to be honest. That would be really great. But it is worth noting that since the launch, they have added this free camera over here where you can actually then go even closer if you want. And obviously some of the graphics weren't really made for this level. This is an experimental mode, and as I said, they hadn't really planned on this, right? But it is there, and we can have a pretty good view this way. It is not as beautiful as Anno 1800 or Satisfactory, especially, some of the late game building. I don't know if they're completely finished. You can see this one here, especially if I get a bit closer. It doesn't look that pretty. There is not tons of things on it. but you do have quite a lot of different models, right? Your cities, as I said, they can be quite organic, so that's pretty cool. On the other hand, I think the UI is very clean and works well. You have at the top all of your key resources, and when you over one, you can really see at a glance, you know, okay, how much do I have, how much am I making, how much am I consuming, everything like this, right? So it is really great. I would love one more thing, which is when I click on it, let's say left or right click, I would love to get into sort of a production menu, which you do have. Which one is it? I always forget, sorry, my bad, 1 second. The reserve over here. So you do have the production menu, right? If I click on wood, I can see, okay, how many cutting camps I have, what level they are, do they have resources, all those type of things. I can go click quickly there and I can see all of the production, etc. And so the detail is there, but it's just missing. Yeah, I would love to just click on it and get to it. And then on the screen, you know, similarly, I can quickly see the buildings that maybe are out of resources. You can see this building is paused and it's out of resources. Now let's talk a bit more about the gameplay. As I said, you're gonna have production chains. They're good, they're not too complex. I mean, it works well. You have to manage, you know, your workers, have enough workers in your city. You also have to manage your resources, right? Plan, of course, to produce more than what you're consuming, including, of course, for food. That's an important one. And then you have to manage also the satisfaction of your people. These are the 5 satisfaction level over here. You have the health, the safety, the belonging, the esteem, and the creativity. And you have to place, you know, different cultural and service building to manage this. Unlocking many of those services or cultural building will require you to go into the building tree, right, to spend some of your research points, which are actually called blueprint. So if I go, for example, over here into the cultural, right, you can see all of them, and each of them, you know, cost a number. For example, this one, 2,500 of blueprints. Of course, then you can have, you know, the construction cost, the maintenance of people, etc. And you have the bonuses is going to give you. So in this case, the Portus is going to give me 500 of health, 300 of, I think, belonging is this one, and 300 of creativity. So you can plan very well here. You have on top of this basic research, you have also the politics, which are a bit more kind of degrees. Really interesting there too, right? You can do a lot of different elements. All of this will give you, you know, bonuses and maluses, of course, right? Similar for the satisfaction. If I have, you know, belonging very high, I'm going to have, for example, a tax rate increased by 20%. If it's very low, on the opposite, my people, you know, they're gonna get maluses, they're gonna want to leave also the city. And then last but not least, there is a very interesting concept of the factions. So if I click on any district, this district has no culture, right? So there's no culture, no faction. This district over here actually has a culture. It is the religious. Why? Because it's close to a religious building, the hospice. And then when you have a district that is that has a culture, you may get the chance to get some factions. So let me find over here, for example, over here, there is a faction, the souk vendor of Palmyra. I can also open the faction panel. You can see all of my factions over here. And this faction, they're going to give you bonuses. They're going to give you tax if you tax them. Yeah, if you have high trust, you can tax them a lot. As I said, they'll give you bonuses, right? In particular, bonuses also in terms of cultural points. But in exchange for this, you have to be careful because factions can start fighting against each other. And if they start fighting against each other, then you can get a lot of maluses. So there's a lot of interesting gameplay aspects here that are some well-known, some a bit fresh, so really good here. Let's talk now about replayability. Now, this is not a type of game where you're going to play 2,000 hours on the same map, same game, you know, like Satisfactory, or even to some extent Anno 1800. This is a bit more a game like, I guess, Civilization, where, yeah, it's not going to take you 1 hour to finish a game. It's going to take you a bit more than this, but you probably will want to replay a few times. There's many choices that you'll make, and you're going to want to make different choices every time you replay. There's also things like, while this is only one map, currently there is only one map, the map is pretty big and you have multiple, you can start anywhere you want. So, you can start one game over here, then the next game you can start over there, etc. So that's part of the replayability. But I do think that in the future, I hope they work on more maps. Having more than one map would be great. Even a map editor would be really cool for, the community to become part of this replayability. Next, is it easy or not? Right now, there is only one difficulty level. They have mentioned that they will build several difficulty levels into the version 1, but I would say it's not too difficult right now. There is a good tutorial. I mean, this is the end of the tutorial here, but it will tell you how to play the game. There's also a great wiki, which is definitely not always the case for early access game. You can see over here, everything is explained nicely, clean UI, and good level of detail. Towards the end of the early access, the end of the medieval period, you can see that the game is still a bit weak. So there's quite a few things that are not fully well explained in my opinion, or clearly just not finished yet. But apart from that, again, I think the game is pretty easy to understand and to grasp. I know one challenge that some people have had was limited number of turns per era. So when you start the game, it tells you have, let's say, for example, 1,200 cycles, so 1,200 minutes if you wish, to finish the Antiquity before you have to move to the next stage. Hearing this feedback, they have already created now an endless mode where you can basically play as long as you want into each era, and that obviously creates also something a bit easier for you. Or if you are having trouble, you can start with this one, learn the game, become a bit better at the game, and then play the classical mode. Last but not least, something I've also really appreciated on the difficulty and replayability is that you get a score at the end of each era and the end of each game. So you can also try to get better. You can compare to your friends, okay, I got a good cultural influence level, but you got a better faction trust level, and it can also show you where you need to get better next time you replay the game. So overall, personally, I've really had a great time with this game. If you like city builders, if you like civilization, I think you can have a great time with this one. Yes, it is early access, there is a few bugs, it is not perfect, it's also not finished, but it's also not $60 or more, right? It is actually, of course, it depends on your country, but if you are in the US, we're talking 25, right? Euros, 25 too. There has been discount. I'm sure there will be also discount too in the future. So yes, I think at this price, if you're a city builder fan, this is a good buy. It's not perfect, and I hope that they will continue to improve it. I hope the next few ages are going to be even more interesting. I hope they will add, new maps for replayability, those type of things. But yes, to conclude, at this price, it's worth it for me. If you want to see more, as I said, I have a full let's play from start to finish. You can see it on the screen now. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.